Ghanaian journalist, I was hired the editor for the Inside newspaper. No about Bontena, Canadian, the Gertrude Torkornoo. You never get to say recently, Gertrude, a press conference, or a media house, a organ hanging and a walk can ask him at the actual woman, or bonum crew at the actual Mosene Baya, or Behun Mobo, a Cambi. At the Amaning and I say, Gertrude Torkornoo, a media, and I say, a press conference, or can send you or watch him say, suspension. I don't know many mahama at the amano, and yard of better ascend at a section. We and small kind and Adiba Kwasa Kaya, many more say a lot of Ghanaians, including Ghanaian journalists, are friend Kwesi Pratt, about until they come out in the channel. The fact say, what you say some time ago, no offer you kuno, ya. And this angle for you kuno, anytime be your bedroom who be ano, a man of trauma, and answer or traumatize it. We and some CG, a babontin, Ebeka. Now, Kwesi Pratt, mu say, at the first place, no, we need quite fast as CG, and I say get to Torkornoo, it in be Chief Justice, Ghana, I say, because the moment Obia kum obusuani, we CJ no, say you do be case eba wenim, na say nipa krona okum obusuani no, oni nipa na omoni ni case aba wenim no, edin relate a, and I say oni ni din esa automatically nipa no lose case na wie enti ha say no obi ehun bebi a o stand enti as Chief Justice that our Ghana ha say there eni kwan say we partisan eni kwan say we do for a political party bin sensem enti the moment Chief Justice and I say Gertrude Torkornoo e bi na no ka nsem bi say e wo press conference ni mu no ni achess e dey answer say one we ni ho adi as Chief Justice, secondly one qualify cra so be Chief Justice. Without wasting my time no yenti Kwesi Pratt embra I say I am malikbasintale TV so but how much subscribe share no be video ni bi enhwe.
Well, last Wednesday the suspended Chief Justice invited the media for a press conference and she announced to the world that she cannot be Chief Justice again. She gave us reasons why nobody under any circumstance should appoint a person like her as Chief Justice of this country. One, she demonstrated an incapacity to rise above her prejudice. She demonstrated an incapacity to come out, of a family history which has clouded her judgment and affected her emotional stability. I mean, anybody suffering from these symptoms must not be allowed to be Chief Justice. Because we expect that whoever is Chief Justice will be fair to all those who appear before her. This one is incapable of being fair to all those who appear before her. One of the major complaints is this, that while the sittings are taking place, something to do with the murder of Major Aqua took place there. And that Major Aqua was her uncle who looked after her. And because of that, she's emotionally traumatized. These are her words. So I ask, Justice, Her Ladyship, Lordship Torkornoo is sitting in the Supreme Court. And somebody appears before her, and the person is called Amatekwe. That person, ab initio, has lost his case. Ab initio. It doesn't matter how the case is presented, it doesn't matter the legal validity and so on. Simply being called a matter create trouble. Lost your case. And this is what she is saying. Okay? It's not that somebody is saying, she is saying. It is obvious from what she's saying, from what she herself is saying, that anything which is remotely connected to the murder of the judges and the retired army officer shifts her balance. So you can count the thousands, maybe millions of things that have some connection with that regrettable development in our history. Okay? Now, don't you forget that the NDC claims its beginnings from the PNDC. And don't you forget that one of those who was executed for that gruesome murder was a member of the PNDC. So the hostility to the NDC is established. And perhaps this is a window to understanding why some decisions were taken by her as Chief Justice. And this may also explain how somebody like her was jumped over her seniors to become Chief Justice. This press conference was very, very useful. And indeed, I wish that she would organize another one. So that we can begin to understand the person we're talking about. She says something else, which is very interesting. One of the things which traumatizes her is the absence of her husband. That in tense situations, when her husband is not around, she loses it. Wow. Head of the judiciary of Ghana. So when there are all these complicated constitutional issues before the Supreme Court and she's sitting in court, she's presiding over the Supreme Court, you have to bring a husband. Because if you don't bring the husband, trouble. Look, she said these things about herself. If somebody had said these things about her, I would have been very angry with the person. Yeah. But these are statements that she's making about herself. That in times of tension, the husband has to be in the room. So when there was that dispute over whether or not the speaker could actually suspend or remove members of parliament, and it became a heated argument, major political issue, and she was sitting in the Supreme Court. Was her husband in the court that day? And if the husband was not in the court, how did that affect her? Unbelievable. You see, Sana, unfortunately today we don't have enough time. One of the other things that the suspended Chief Justice did was to display her exceptional lack of knowledge of the law. I mean, what she did to herself that day at the press conference was terrible. Look, me, I haven't gone to law school. I am not a lawyer. In fact, the only law we learnt was in the Institute of Journalism where we did press law and so on. But there are some basic things that even us, we know. We know, for example, that the law is the text of the law itself, the hardcore text of the law, in addition to what is referred to as precedent, decisions of the courts, especially decisions of the Supreme Court. The suspended Chief Justice did not know that the Supreme Court, at least on 3 occasions, has pronounced on the confidentiality, the in-camera hearing of Article 146 cases. She didn't know. Senna, she didn't know. She says she doesn't know that the law says that the proceedings has to be held in camera. She didn't know. She didn't know the law.
The law is the law.
My goodness. I mean, look, Senna, there are 3 cases which the Supreme Court has determined on this matter. And first one is Justice Derry versus Tiger Eye. You remember, you recall that. Second one is the Ajay Chum versus the Attorney General. And the third one is the Ghana Bar Association versus the Attorney General. Our suspended Chief Justice did not know. Unbelievable. And the worst part is the fact that the suspended Chief Justice is now holding a press conference, looking all of us in the face and telling us that the judiciary can be manipulated for political purposes. The judiciary, she just left.
She's not even left.
She hasn't left.
Well, the judiciary she presided over. She is now telling us that it can be manipulated. Politicians can play games with the judiciary. So when she was sitting there as Supreme Court judge, what did she see? What did she do? And if indeed the judiciary can be so manipulated, is that not sufficient reason why we, the citizens of Ghana, must support every effort to reform the judiciary? Hey, Justice Isaba Torkornoo, why did she do this to herself? You know, this is something that she should have allowed her worst enemies to do to her. But she chose to do it herself. She actually expended resources to do this damage to herself. I can't believe it. Anyway, be that as it may, now that we know, now that she has told us that in the absence of her husband she cannot function, now that she has told us that even when she enters a place, the height of the walls have effects on her. You remember that Edu Lodge, the walls of Edu Lodge are too high. It frightens her and so on. Well, she decided to do this to herself. I really, really, honestly pity her. What can I say? We don't have enough time. Let's leave it here.